Hi guys,
Hi.
Ginger. Okay, we've been missing. I know that. Um, I've had a lot going on in my life. I've had my son visiting from the UK, which has been a really big thing and taking up a lot of my time and focus and concentration. It's been really wonderful. All right,
A
so
nice distraction. That's a very nice distraction, Kip.
it is it's lovely. So, what we're going to talk about today is seems sort of strange, but a lot of people who wouldn't normally send me texts on the subject have started to send me texts on subjects pertaining to the moon and the influences of it. So we're going to talk about this new moon in Taurus because it seems that it's getting a lot of focus. We're
It's
going to
full.
talk.
We got a full one.
I'll go full on tomorrow, I think. Um,
Yes.
so we're going to talk about amplified discussion on where your focus goes grows. We're going to talk about it's now the time to dream the big dream, and that we're really steering towards that which we're giving focus to, um, and appreciations of success. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about long-term commitments, and we're also going to talk about why that's necessary to make lasting change. And then we're going to talk a little bit about outside of self and sense of community and that type of thing. And then Ginger's going to tell you a little bit about the she can tell you a little bit about what you can talk about witch's calendar and also peace and love and stuff like that, right? So so I'm going to start with where I was going to start. I can't remember where I started, but I like to begin with where your focus goes grows. Now, I know we've talked a lot about this in the past, and it's sometimes we're not aware that we're giving focus to the negative. Sometimes we're unaware that even though we might think that we're being positive in relation to where we're giving the positive thoughts or that we're amplifying the positive thoughts, but we might not be aware of the negativity that's coming out of our own mouths that counters that, like this
Hmm.
tendency to whinge on about something that's been bugging you for months, or the tendency to actually create negativity around a positive situation, just because that's always where we've been aligned. And it
It's
seems
what
like
we've been
current,
conditioned to. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like mindfulness in relation to where are you really giving your focus? What are you really saying? Are you walking your talk? Are you really giving your focus to stuff that is positive? Or are you pretending that you're giving stuff to positive, but there's a load of crap coming out your mouth? That's
Well,
everything.
and from my point of view, it's a big yin yang image that we were looking at earlier. It's an interesting image to me because it kind of shows that everything that's good is bad and everything that's bad is good, and
All right.
and
Let me
then there's
let,
a little bit of both and everything.
hold on. Let me share the screen and I'll show you what you're talking about. Sharing screen. All right, she's talking about this image here. So,
I thought it was a pretty cool graphic. Kind of describes what we're talking about here. Because we think, oh, it's bad, but it might not be bad. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's something that we need to do. Maybe it's an experience that we need to have. We need to go with the flow, but also be open to experiencing things that we haven't experienced in a very long time or possibly never. And, for I think a lot of us, that can be kind of a frightening, upsetting experience because it's a foreign energy and we're not used to it. So suddenly we find our joy. We think, yay, I'm finally manifesting it, but then it feels odd. And maybe it feels bad. Maybe it feels good. Maybe it just feels so strange we don't know what to do with it.
and
And
there's
I've been saying the word glitching out. People have been glitching out. And I think it's as they begin to purge what really truly doesn't belong to them. Um, there's there's a downside to everything. You know, you purge, you make room for more, and then more comes and it doesn't feel right because we haven't carried it, we haven't tasted it, we haven't felt this before. So
I,
it's
I, I just keep,
interesting.
when you're talking about that, I just keep seeing the temperance card in the tarot.
Yes,
So it's like
yes,
putting your foot in the water, but maintaining your balance while you're putting the foot in the water. And it's actually a very, very difficult path to navigate because it seems to me that, and I said to you a couple of weeks ago that I felt that the sensation of the meek will inherit the earth that's coming to fruition, meaning the kind people of this world seem to be having some really good experiences.
yes,
Um, and they seem to be getting rewards in abundance, but there's like this temperance aspect of it, meaning that you got to really check that yourself that you don't throw yourself into the pond.
yes,
Listen,
yeah,
just put your foot in the water, don't throw yourself into the pond. That type
yeah.
of
Don't
thing.
go to the deep end. Just
Don't
go
go,
slow, go slow.
yeah, go slow. Because
But you know, sometimes the good feels bad because it's scary. If we haven't experienced it before, we might feel skeptical about it. I'm noticing a lot of people are afraid of joy. You
oh,
know,
absolutely.
if I feel joy, then it could be taken from me, and so therefore I'm scared to feel joy. You know, well, wait, I thought that's what we were aiming for. Well, just because that's what we were aiming for, it doesn't mean we know what to do with it when we get it.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
we
it's
haven't
kind of
had
like
it in
I've
such a
got a
long
new
time.
bike, but I've never learned to ride any bike. So now I've got this new tool in my possession, and I don't know what to do with it.
And the other thing is humor. I mean, we
Yes,
often talk about how humor's not actually not funny anymore, and it's a really dodgy subject because there's so many hot topics that you can't touch on anymore pertaining to humor, where um racial stuff, yeah, so many topics that were funny that are not funny anymore.
well, and it's
That
kind of like the music lyrics as we start to realize what the heck we thought was funny and entertaining in the past is now proving to be quite disturbing because so much is being disclosed to us, you know, and we're becoming more aware.
and
We're perceiving what we couldn't perceive before. We
the
didn't see
bait
the harm. We were taught to believe that this was funny. We were taught to believe that this was, you know, top 10 music. And we believed it without questioning. And over the last 10 or 12 years, I feel that we've really been learning to use our discernment and use our own critical thinking skills.
but also the humor was so often based upon the unspeakable. You know, the things
Yes.
that you couldn't say, humor was based upon things that you couldn't talk about, or, and you know, and they'd throw it in there as humor, and it'd be like, oh, a bit shocking, you know. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have said that,
Well,
but
I
it
mean, I
was
have to
dressed as
admit,
humor.
I was listening to some George Carlin videos today. He's been gone for a long while, but his work is timeless.
Yeah,
And it's more relevant today than ever. And it's amazing to me. Some of it was dated like 2005, and some of his last recordings. And it's stunning to me to think that so many still aren't getting it. You know, we've been told that somehow we're missing the signals, either through fear or like, you know, maybe we just simply can't carry more. It's too much for us to bear. But yeah, he had me laughing today talking about I was watching his Dumb Americans video. You
hmm.
know, we're all dumb Americans. We've gone through a case of amnesia, it feels like, you know, and we really truly forgot our history.
So I've got to bring up Bill Hicks and George Carlin's Big Electron video. I don't know whether I'm allowed to play it, but I can certainly link it. I mean, I know I've talked about this video loads before, but it's one of my go-to videos when I'm feeling overwhelmed with the world because it brings you right back down to basics. You know, that's just a choice between fear and love, and that this is just a ride, and that you can
Just
change
around.
it. You can change it anytime you want. It's just a choice between fear and love, and that's in the Imaginarium as well. It's sort of like it doesn't. You don't need $1 million to change your life. You might think you do, but you don't. You don't even need 1,000. It's just a choice between fear and love.
It's just a
Uh,
choice, just a
it's just a
shift in
choice.
your perspective, right? You know,
Yeah.
ability to empathize with the person that's receiving what you're giving. You know, I think oftentimes people are offended that you're offended. Well, wait a minute. You know, I'm allowed to have a response. You're allowed to feel how you feel and bring to the table what you bring to the table. You cannot control how I respond to that. You
Mm,
know, or and I likewise, I cannot control how somebody responds to what I'm offering. It's their reaction. They're the conductors of that reaction. And only now are we just realizing that we actually have more control over that reaction that, you know, I'm really afraid to use that word. I'm afraid that might flag us, you know, but it's a big business and it's all about energy. And, you know, so when I think of reactors, that's us. We are the reactors. And so how are we reacting in every situation? It begs us to pay closer attention to how we receive and how we give information.
yeah. So currently talking about this full moon in Taurus. So it seems there's quite a lot of talk around it at the moment. It's happening tomorrow night, and part of, as I said, quite a few people have been sending me texts about it. This first one was from somebody doing moon moods. I can give you a link to her stuff, I think. I haven't got her name there. But it talks about it's hugely transformational, this current Taurian full moon. And it talks about that it's really necessary for us to slow down so we can hear our inner voice. So
Mhm.
try and get rid of the noise, try and get rid of the chaos from inside of your life, and try and slow it right down so you can actually listen to what your voice is telling you. And it also talks about looking at at what point in your life you're stuck with, because this is actually a big time for us to no longer deny the energy of that which has kept us stuck for the longest time and to deal with it. It's a really
Mhm.
good time to do that. So face it and start looking at, I don't know. I mean, it's not that you have, sometimes you don't have to look at it directly. You just have to imagine yourself without it. Start
Yes.
imagining yourself without this thing that's had you stuck and how life would feel without it. So start envisioning space without that blockage, or start envisaging life without that blockage. So it's going to show you what you've outgrown. This full moon, if you can deaden the noise, it'll show you what's outgrown, and it'll show you what's standing between you and your current evolution.
And I also think
So
it's an opportunity to look and see what you've manifested because the full moon is a completion of the cycle. So the new moon is the beginning of the cycle. And so the new moon in Taurus happened 6 months ago. So where were our thoughts? What was our intentions during that new moon? And many of us are paying closer attention to these cycles and, you know, maybe getting our witch on and trying to cast a spell or, you know, make the world a better place with by setting powerful intentions that benefit, you know, the collective beyond, you know, maybe we're trying to manifest beyond our own needs. So for me, it's important to look back 6 months ago. What was going on for you in April and May? And you don't have to answer that question, but this is a culmination of that energy that began last May.
mm, very interesting. So another text I got this morning was anything can happen while the Taurus moon fuses with Uranus. Try
I'm
not
gonna
to
not
put
laugh at that. I'm really not gonna laugh at that. I'm sorry. I'm feeling a little tired.
try not to put all your eggs in one basket, even if it goes through. It's all good to have an alternative opinion or option.
Yeah.
So, uh, I think it's more of what I was talking about there in relation to not necessarily taking action on it, but just perceiving your life without it or with it, depending on which way you look at it. But just trying to imagine yourself with or without it, the thing that's causing you a problem, and how
Yeah,
that would look.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
emotion tied into that. You've got to feel the emotion too in order to manifest it in the reality. So I wanted to talk a little bit about outside of self, because I find that over the years, I have, I mean, I used to use tarot cards a lot and things. I used to use alternative means like crystals and like scrying things, like where you then turn a thing around in your hand to get a yes no answer. I used to use a lot of things like that, lots of tools in order to navigate my way through life. Um, and I'm finding more and more and more that I am standing away from that and looking towards the inside for the answer rather than looking for tools outside to solve my problems. To look inside. And Ginger was aligning with me with regards to that. You're at that stage as well, aren't you?
It started last December and it was quite out of nowhere. I was given guidance to let go and stop using the tarot cards. And I felt really bad about that because I had just arranged to enter a workplace, another friend's business to offer readings, and I was really looking forward to it. So it really came out of nowhere for me, and I went with the flow and learned a lot in the process. I had experiences where I've noticed that my third eye is open more than I ever thought possible, and just being able to identify the energy a little deeper than what even the tarot can tell me. So I think it's really taught me to let go of the outside influences entirely and go within and find the answers, talk to soul and ask soul, what's the, what is it that my soul needs in this moment? Not what is it that my mind needs, but what is it that the deepest part of me needs? What kind of action should I take? And I've been listening for a very long time as I get that guidance. So, and sometimes, like I say, the guidance is right out of nowhere. It makes no sense. I can't make sense of it. I just have to walk with it to see
And
where it's going to take me.
and
And
the biggest
I think it's important to stay open to change.
so the biggest shift for me in that what you're talking about is, like when you asking for help or something and you kind of like thinking, oh God, please help me with this. I went from perceiving that to asking outside to asking inside. That I don't know
Yes.
when it happened. I couldn't tell you exact moment as to where that voice was reaching inside rather than reaching out.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm not really touching on religion here because it's kind of a very I don't really want to walk on anybody else's path or stomp on anybody else's beliefs. I'm just talking about my own personal experience here. But I found that it helped a lot when I shifted that perspective from looking out to looking in, that
Yes.
my own voice amplified, my own soul amplified by me not externalizing it so much. So,
Yes.
uh, the other thing that perhaps we could be working on right now, which is to do with long-term commitments, and that's actually you might determine that as long-term commitments to other people, but it's
Yes.
actually more about long-term commitments to self. So it's about, again, changing that around so you complement other people by making more intensive long-term commitments to self, but you help other people more by being a stronger person yourself and less interfering with other people's stuff. That whole back away, you do you boo stuff, backing
This whole
away.
year, I've been getting my psychic hits have involved the words let them. So we've talked a lot about not interfering, allowing people to experience whatever it is that they're here to experience, recognizing that their path is not my path, and vice versa, and really letting go, becoming an observer. So the words "let them" and "I'm done" keep coming to mind. And there's a little bit of well, I don't know, for me to hear that I'm done, there's a little bit of relief there. It feels lighter. You know, it's easier for me to receive my own messages when I'm not worrying about everybody else's stuff. And so it's a much lighter load to finally be able to say, okay, they've been given all the information and it's up to them now to decide what they're going to do with it. I have to let them move in whatever direction they choose because I mean, ultimately, the goal is to become empowered and sovereign. And so that would mean not following anybody, including us. You know, we're not here looking for followers. We're just here sharing our thoughts, right? And, but I think in the past, I think it was very important for people to have, others line up with their beliefs. You know, this is what we've seen. You have to do it this way. Like George Carlin earlier in one of his videos, he was saying, I don't want to belong to any club that says I can't wear a hat or I must wear a hat. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. So it got to a point where we've done our job, we're done. I'm done. And then it was about letting them do what they're going to do with that information because I'm not responsible for what they can perceive. You know, I cannot imagine how they receive the message that we give. It's up to us to sit back and watch and see what they're able to do with the new awareness that we're getting.
Yeah.
So it's a time of detaching from others, and it's a time of going within.
And valuing yourself and
Correct.
self-respect, you know. And the other thing that is attached to that is this aspect of putting change into your life, right? So you
Yeah,
can't make change from a perspective of not of thinking yourself unworthy. So you can't like say, uh, I want my life to change because it's been really bad up until now because I made it so.
yeah.
You
No,
know, like
we
it
we
says,
didn't do that. Somebody else did that. It was our parents, or it was our caregivers. It wasn't us. Well, it is now. It's us now. Maybe they, in their own victimhood, didn't know better.
so
So
to
I think it's important for us to develop tolerance and again taking responsibility, like you're saying, Kim.
but also the mindset being I'm going to change this area of my life because I know that I'm worthy of more than this. So it's like
Yes,
a self-esteem thing. It's like pulling the self-esteem out and saying, I'm not making this change because another person's bad. I'm making this change because I know I'm worth more. So
yeah. And
shifting,
that's such a strange experience for so many people who have been sacrificing their own well-being,
mm,
in service to others.
hmm
So it's a major shift that I think you and I are really detecting around us, where people are discovering that, wait, I actually have to learn again to make room, for what I'm being offered. If I don't feel worthy, I've got a block and I cannot receive what I've been asking for. So I think ultimately what we're coming to realize is that we are blocking ourselves and that we're now learning to get out of our own way and to quit using script and language like, well, that'll never work. And, that must be nice for them. It'll never happen for me. Well, yes, it can. But again, we have to get out of our own way with our scripting and our language. What are we writing? RITE.
yeah,
what is the spell that we're
yeah,
casting?
yeah, yeah. And then also just to combine that with the Year of a Dragon thing, which has been a theme throughout the whole year. I don't know about the rest of us, but for me, this has been a very, very, there's been a huge amount of change in my life in this year, huge amount. And it's been soaring to the heights and then diving right down into the depths of despair. And I would say if I'm on the back of a dragon, then when I'm soaring to the heights, I'm just on fire and there isn't any stopping me. And then when I come down into the depths, I'm actually going into the water. The dragon's
Yeah.
actually going into the water and going to the depths of the water. So I'm dragging up all this horrible emotion from the past, uh, and then clearing the mindset so I don't view it in such a negative, or bring it back to the present, bring it back to the now. Is this important to now? Or was this
Well, and
just a
it is
thing for the
important. And if
past?
you're having that feeling, then the feeling is trying to get your attention. The feeling is giving you an opportunity to clear whatever it is that it's not fueling it. So
Rather than it being
if the
true.
feeling is unworthiness, you may discover that, well, I actually do feel worthy, but somehow I've developed the habit of saying, no, I'm okay. You know, in terms of like so many people, especially women, we become pleasers. We're caregivers by nature, most of us. And I think, we've been really terribly taken off our course and we've forgotten our role in this great mystery. We've we've been told that we were forced to be submissive. And with that, we've had to suppress and stifle ourselves and keep ourselves small and not speak and not really be honest about how we feel. It was a matter of life and death. I mean, I think of the Crusades. Yeah, they were coming to take you out if you didn't agree to line up with you have to follow what they're telling you to do. Put the funny hat on, take the funny hat off. I have to do what they say or they're not going to like me. And this persists today. Like I think of my experience with the religious community is that most have never read the book and they truly are following because they're afraid of being shunned. They're afraid of being outcast from their community. So they're very much still dependent on permission from the outer world,
But there
you
is a
know,
community
and
there. There
yes,
is a
there is.
community there. And
Yes.
sometimes um, that community is preferable to no community.
Absolutely. But for me, that community has always been too judgmental. The moment you say the wrong thing, you're an outcast and you're going to get shunned. And my position has always been that my God is an all-loving God and there's room for everybody at the table. So I don't subscribe to a lot of the beliefs that people have through their I'm going to call it a cult, because it's all a cult. We're all following. It's one person's doctrine that we follow. And there's no evidence that any of this is true. It's just a good story,
Huh?
a really good story. And the stories are the same. Like Santos Bonacci has done a great job of showing us that the, the synchronicities between our stories,
Yeah.
and for example, the golden rule. That's the one rule that was handed to me that really stuck. It's about treating people the way you wish to be treated. So become the energy that you wish to find in the world. And now as we learn about manifestation and our state of being, we're electromagnetic beings of light who have this consciousness and can now take control of this electromagnetic energy within our vessel. And we know that we do that with our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And when we harmonize that energy, those three pieces of the puzzle, we create the material. We create the experience that we're having.
Okay. It's quite interesting because I sort of had a relatively recent experience of this where I had a movie that I watched over and over and over and over again over a period of years. And then it seems that I've sort of manifested that movie.
Yeah. I can get it.
Like
I get it.
in a roundabout way, Like not exactly, but
Well, I think
um
we've all managed to manifest the zombie apocalypse. I remember thinking, what the heck is this all about? We were getting shows like I remember a lot of people, if they weren't watching Survivor,
yeah.
they were watching the zombie movies and the
Uh
Walking Dead movies.
yeah.
And Tim, I know you're kind of in a very nice area there where you're not seeing what some of the larger cities I know that you will see it if you're on the mainland, perhaps, but here in Canada, every city is plagued by what I would call a zombie apocalypse.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's major problems with drug use and homelessness and I would love to help people, but I don't know how to reach them. They have to find that path themselves.
Yep. And that's back to what you're saying. You can't really help people. You can't really help people.
No, but I do think that we, inadvertently manifested this. I would never say that we did this to ourselves on purpose, but I think it's important for us to pay attention. Like, how did we get here? Well, look back at the media influences. What songs were we singing? What were we chanting? We're doing this. We're the creators, and I believe that, the mischief gang is here to manipulate our thoughts and our feelings. And, if we're not careful, if we don't shield ourselves in the next, where are we going? I mean, it's an energy war. Spiritual warfare is what we've always been in. And, it's a battle of good and evil. So if we're not really careful about what information and what energy we allow to come in, we have to recognize that we will be emitting it. And if we're emitting it, then we're creating it.
Hmm. Okay, so this thing I've got on my screen that I've on for a while is from you. So there's me in the middle,
Huh?
and then on one side you've got peace and love, which interestingly is depicted by yellow and orange. Um, and then you've got on the right hand side, fuck around and find out. And
I
then
just thought it
me.
was kind of amusing. I thought it was kind of cute,
It's like a
really
mix,
kind of cute,
like a
you
mix.
know, and it can become atomic, right? Like if we're not careful, the alchemical wedding. What is it that we're mixing into the me pot? What are we
Yeah,
putting in there? Is it mostly fuck around and find out? Like, are we walking around all prickly and ready to fight? Have we managed our emotional intelligence? Are we prepared to take a deep breath, breathe through moments that might otherwise really set us off? And it's not reasonable for us to just be in a state of peace or love. We're in denial about these fuck around and find out feelings that we're having. If we try to, no, I'm not convinced that you're always in a state of peace and love. It's a facade. It's another mask.
yeah.
And so it's important for us to find something in the middle, where we are peace and love, and we're also fuck around and find out.
I also read something really profound the other day, which was about comedians. And they were saying, like, how can you be miserable being a comedian? And somebody said, well, did you ever notice I'm the only one not laughing? And I thought that's actually quite profound. Like the
Isn't
whole
it though?
room's laughing and you're not.
Well,
Um,
and again, back to Carlin, he said that a lot of his humor came from life experiences. He grew up in what he called a white ghetto. White, it was just it was quite an education for him, the
yeah.
area that he grew up in and the experiences that he had as a young lad, his family. He's a real anomaly. He could see long before most of us what we're dealing with now. And he
Mm.
tried to bring it to our attention with humor. But when you think about it, he's really mocking us. He's calling us dumb Americans, you know, but it should have been an effective tool. That should have gotten our attention.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the witch calendar 2025. So,
I really
basic,
liked this. I saw this earlier. There's only one thing that's still wrong with it from my point of view, but it's a reminder of how we've been deceived and that these were the once upon a time what we call Christmas. It was all about the turning of the wheel. It was the changing of the season. And we've renamed everything and this is how we get lost. This is how we forget who we are.
so
And
this,
this year they talk about the new moon. So right at the top of each section, you see the month, but in fact, January is not January until we are in the new moon of that time. So the new moon is telling us that it's a new month, it's a new month. And so we're still, even with this great calendar, I really liked it, it's still not right. So we're still trying to remember our language.
And we can do that through aligning with the mood of the moon, which is something
Yes,
that Ginger and I've been trying to work on. We've been talking about making a separate channel, maybe through Spotify, where we talk just for a few minutes every few days about what the energy is upcoming. So when we do that, what we'll do is we will link link links to that, and we'll try and work with that because we're just thinking about doing very, very short, maybe every 2 days, very short, just little listening. I don't know, Spotify, as I said, just a short audio thing where we talk every couple of days about what the upcoming energy is and how we can utilize that energy to the best of our own benefits. Because the basic path that we're on here is just to try and make the best that we can out of ourselves. And if we're aligning with natural phenomena of the world that we live in, then that's got to help us.
it does. You know, we can predict when the squirrels are going to come out of hibernation.
Mm,
We can see it all play out, and it's all based on the moon cycles, the moon, the season that we're in.
yeah. So we're gonna try and do something with that. We haven't quite worked out how, but we're gonna work on that in the next probably couple of weeks and then start linking it into our chat. So we'll still make these videos, but I don't know how frequently we're going to be able to make these videos with everything that we've got going on in our lives. We've become less and less frequent making these videos. Anyway,
This wasn't the right time, and people didn't need to be listening to us anyway. We were, I think, all being guided to go within.
all right. So
This is a good tool to learn where the imbalance might be. I liked this a lot.
this one, how to
Hmm.
how to know what chakra needs work. If you're worried, it's the crown. If you're confused, it's the third eye. If you're shy, it's the throat. Trust issues, it's the heart. Not motivated, it's solar. Lack passion, it's sacral. Or in fear, it's root.
Hmm.
So, how do you suggest we work with those energies if we're having those sentiments?
Well, I think it's important for us to use tools that are made available to us. So, for example, there's different oils that are really soothing to the mind. You know, frankincense and myrrh come to mind. Just a little aromatherapy can help to soothe the crown. And this is commonly used to keep us in an introspective or meditative state. It's easier for us to get there with some supportive allies. You might be wanting to work with a piece of black obsidian, like what I have here in my hand. It's a tool for grounding. And so many crystals and rocks can help us, do what we're here to do and bring us back to center, take us from being, that erratic energy that's causing the chaos unintentionally, of course. But as we become more aware of our ability to that we are creating, we are the creators and we are emitting energy. As we become more and more aware, we have to take responsibility and find what tools work to soothe these parts of us.
Okay,
We also talked a lot about the number of senses that we actually have, Kim. We talked about how there's more than five.
this is
And
Teddy.
so again, to tune into the energy of, well, what is it that we're trying to decode here? Like, why do I feel this way? Where is it coming from? I think this is kind of a great little cheat sheet to tell you that if you're feeling worried, it's likely you need to do some crown work, this kind of thing. Using color, you can use sound. So if you're having crown chakra blocks, then you can maybe wear the color purple, light a purple candle, bring it into your awareness more and more, soothing the energy of that chakra.
So, with regards to, can I just want to introduce Teddy. This is my puppy.
He's gorgeous. Is this his first time with us here?
This is Teddy. Hello, Teddy.
He's beautiful. Hi,
Hi.
Teddy.
Teddy just
Oh,
had an injection today, so he's a bit quiet. He's normally a little rat. He's actually not. He's lovely. And he's up. He's Mr. Mischief, I'll tell you that. Anyway, I'm going to put Teddy
he's
back
still
on
very
down the
young.
ground. He is. He's
He's
only
just
a
a
little
little baby.
baby. He's
Yeah,
4 months old. So
very
he's just
sweet kid.
little. All right. So with regards to when I sometimes have panic attacks, um, one of the things that I do, and I don't get them very often anymore, but you know when you get free floating anxiety and you don't know what the root of it is, you don't know why you're panicking, but you're panicking about something that you don't know what is. You ever had that?
I have, and I've learned so much about panic and the anxiety and this kind of thing that I'd have to compare it to taking care of an infant. So you do sort of a trial and error process of elimination to try and pinpoint what it is that the child needs. They can't communicate their needs very well. So you'll check, are they wet? Are they dry? Are they, have they been watered? Have they been fed? Have they been loved? You go through sort of a checklist and learning to do that for ourselves to learn where is this anxiety coming from. I get very quick answers because a long while ago, I learned to say, what's the lesson? What is it that I'm being asked to give my attention to? And I am clairaudient. So I get the information pretty quickly. If I can just formulate the right question, it'll help me say, well, you haven't had a drink of water today. You know, no wonder you're feeling a little anxious. It could be something very simple. It could be an anniversary that's emotionally triggering you on a very deep subconscious level. We haven't forgotten. Subconsciously, we remember for many lifetimes. Some of us believe, right? So I think that energy is there until we identify it, we sit with it, we look it in the eye, and we say, right, well, I don't care for you, don't like this energy too much, but I love you, and I know why you're here now. And I'm gonna take better care of you because you're mine, and you're part of me that needs me. And I haven't been giving you the attention that you need. We've been neglecting the child within.
So the other thing I do with regards to that is if I'm having a free floating anxiety attack, is I imagine the energy of the attack moving through my chakras. So I can
Mm.
visualize the idea of is it in the crown? Is it in my third eye? Is it in my throat? And by the time I have identified where it is, it goes away. It diffuses.
Because
I
it
don't
just
know.
wants attention. It's kind of like a child that's feeling left out. Like, whoa, what about me? I am not getting a very nice serving here.
Yeah,
Did you forget my birthday?
yeah, yeah. It's just
So it's a trigger
so.
and it just is asking us to give attention. And
Can you
I feel it's always an opportunity to be clear.
can you talk a little bit about trauma there?
Trauma bear.
Mm,
I couldn't manage my own personal thoughts were a bit out of control. So from the moment I woke up, I noticed it was within 5 minutes, my thoughts were in a state of overwhelm, and I was having a hard time finding where to begin. I don't know where to start because I'm having these repetitive thoughts and they're not the nicest thoughts. So the trauma bear taught me how to take extraordinarily deep inhales and exhales. And this is a video that was given to me by someone I really value. And I went to them for help, and they said we want you to watch this video. And it was only 2 minutes long, and then there's a longer video going into greater detail. And I think it's Dr. Peter Levine who has taught us somatic healing, nature's somatic healing, and it's wonderful techniques that are helping people clear PTSD symptoms. I feel that we're all experiencing a bit of a PTSD, post traumatic stress,
yeah.
even if it's just from 2020. You know, that was a traumatic experience worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are still locked in. We're still
Mm-hmm.
dancing with that devil and we're still really scared. You know, some of us dodged the hijack and saw it for what it was and refused to play the fear game.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
But, it's important for us to, I think it's important for us to explore what's working for other people. This gentleman has had great success. I know a lot of therapists who are using his techniques to help people clear energy. And they might not be speaking the language that you and I commonly speak, but it's the same work.
Yeah. And it's all about breathing. It's all about calming yourself through your breath,
Yes.
centering. I mean, I know that I've had a fair bit of exposure to trauma in my life, extreme trauma, and other people experiencing extreme trauma. And a lot of the time when somebody phones up and is just in a total, absolutely panic state, often what I say to them is, hang on a second, just breathe, just
Hmm.
breathe, just breathe with me, just breathe. And you bring it right back to the breath, and it takes away the focus and concentration from whatever it is that's panicking them in the world that they're in. I mean,
And
the
it
environment.
puts
Yeah,
them in a better position to be able to identify it themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Once they get
exactly.
into that calmer state, then they can start to become more rational and,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And start
speak for
taking
themselves.
necessary actions.
Correct.
Um, so it's always, to me, it's always, if you're having a panic attack, you're having something, just start breathing. Just try and center yourself through breathing if help isn't at hand. Anyway. All
It
right.
happens
So,
very quickly too. Like I find just like 3 or 4 deep inhales and exhales, and you can become, I don't recommend doing deep, extraordinarily deep inhales, but especially if you're driving, I think it's important to find a quiet space because you could become very emotional as you release what's being brought to you.
uh,
And I think it's also important for us to be sitting down because you can become quite lightheaded taking those extraordinarily deep inhales. So it's important to keep yourself in a safe space, maybe quiet, private space because you may become emotional. You might not want to do that at work. And give yourself room to sort of listen to what comes through once you clear that energy. You need
realized
time to
that
sit
the
with it.
screen wasn't
And
full before. So, oh yeah.
he's gorgeous. Hi, Teddy.
All right. So, is there anything else that you want to say before we go? He's very floppy at the moment.
I have to talk about Stephen Beatty. He keeps coming to mind.
Okay,
And
feel
I think
free.
it's so important, the work that he's doing. And I'm really grateful to see it's his work is looking better than ever. He did a video on the Pictish stones, and he talks about how we've left signs and symbols to tell ourselves what's going to happen. And I think that it's true. The Pict, the Pictish people. I think of the images, the pictures, and the images makes me think of the imagination. And so while they may have told us what might happen, they may have been telling us what did happen. We don't know. We're trying to decode symbols that, they have a very deep subconscious meaning. It's triggering something within us. And but somehow we've forgotten the language. So I think I love his work. I love what he's doing right now. He really connects the as above to the below. So
Can you
he can see the constellations in the standing stones all around Scotland, Ireland, Wales.
can you
It's
give
very
me a
cool.
link to the video you're talking about with the Pictish standing
Yes, I
stones?
can.
I had
I
a great
can.
fascination for those types of stones anyway for the longest time.
I think I sent you that video, Kim, but it probably is lost among many things. You've been a busy girl.
Yeah, no, I've hardly been watching anything. I've been so absorbed in real life. but I haven't watched very much. I haven't watched anything.
Well, as
Right.
far as the story of the zodiac goes, I think that we still haven't got it right. So while we might be talking about the energy of the, for me, I think we can see and feel the energy of the waxing and the waning moon. And I've been exploring that energy in the garden for a long time. How does this work? Do I get better results if I plant it now, or should I wait?
Mm,
And so just observing, playing along, observing, using somebody else's guidance maybe, but then feeling your way through it. Instead of following their recipe, work with the ingredients that you've got, and how does this feel? Using those senses again.
hmm
So I think it's very important. Maybe a future video, Kim, if you like, we can talk about the senses, or do you want to go there now?
No, I think we will cut this off, and there's quite a few links we've got to post with this video anyway. And the next time we'll come on and we'll talk about the senses, but I think we need to do a deeper dive into that before we talk about it.
Okay,
So I'll just write senses here. There you go. I've written it down. It must happen.
definitely more than what we've been perceived or what we've been told.
Yeah.
It's more than, and I think it's important for us to become aware of what else is happening to us from an outer world perspective, because that energy from the outer world affects our inner world.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And if you want to comment, feel free to comment, and we'll catch you soon. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Take good
Bye.
care.
See ya. Bye.